think I've gotten a lot faster. I can make a mean sandwich pretty quick these
There you
days.
go. Look, is this your first one?
It is.
Oh,
It is. So yeah, we're super, super excited. And
that's awesome.
we know we're having a boy, which is very exciting. My husband keeps asking when the hockey skates, what week the hockey skates and the golf clubs are formed.
Oh, clubs. That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's what you do. I'm a squash player, and so regular squash racket's like 27 inches long. So I had this little one made. It was about
Oh my
10
God,
inches
so
long.
cute.
And when the kid was like 4 months old, we're like forehand, backhand, forehand, backhand. So.
Well, I gotta say the funniest has been we have 8 nieces and nephews, and it's split down the middle. It's 4 and 4. There's 4 girls and 4 boys, and the reaction of telling them that we're having a boy has been so funny because the boys are like, "Yes!" and the girl, one of my nieces, like borderline started crying. She was like, "No!" It was so funny.
That's great. That's fantastic.
No, we're really fired up about it. We're excited.
That's awesome. Hey, John.
Hey, good morning, all.
Okay, what's this with the goatee thing going? That's a whole new thing.
It's my Quarn stash.
I did the same thing. I had a whole full beard, and I'm like, I can't. It was itching and stuff, and I'm like, I can't take it.
Yeah, I don't really grow it too often, but I figured I had an opportunity to do it, so I let it grow. But it's probably coming off in like the next week or so.
That's great.
Mine did too. It just drove me crazy.
It ages me because it's all gray on the side, so it's just, you know.
Oh, dude, I got to show you my picture. It's white. It's horrible. I look like Santa Claus.
Yeah, I'm like a reverse skunk. I have a black stripe right down the middle here yet, right?
That's cool though. I thought you like dyed it so it was dark there. That's cool.
I don't know. I could get a mascara stick and fill it in or
Not get crazy.
Oh, that's great. All right, so we're hoping on a couple more people here, and then we can kick it off. Hey, Deb, how you doing?
Hey, Deb.
Good. Sorry, I could see all your faces a little while ago on the laptop, but I couldn't hear anything. So I switched to my phone, and it's working on my phone. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's excellent. That's
How
great.
are
We
you?
got Leslie here too. How about that? Oh, and Dania. Hi, how you doing? Dania. She's not hearing us yet.
She might not hear us. I don't know why. I don't know why I couldn't get it to work. I've used it a million times on my laptop, but it wasn't working today. So.
I just had to download an update on it, so maybe it's.
Yeah, it's a new.
Oh yeah.
I just did it like as I was signing on to this one, so maybe it's kind of messing up everybody's computers.
Can you guys?
I can.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're on.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
we
I
can.
can.
Yep. Yes.
I can't hear you guys. I
Oh,
can't hear you guys.
You can't hear us at all?
You might have to call back in.
You hit did you hit the unmute bottom left on your screen, Dania? Unmute?
I think it has to do with the update.
Okay. Well,
Probably
sometimes.
the update.
Okay.
Yeah, because I couldn't. Same thing, and I didn't update it because I thought it would take too long. So I just switched to my phone.
Oh.
She's texting. Can I hear her?
Yeah. Well, I want her to talk, so she might want to try to sign back on. And
And honestly, the update was under 30 seconds. I was surprised.
yeah, I was surprised too.
Right. No, we saw you. I'm texting her right now.
And we know that you're on Deb Weinrich's iPhone.
I think when you switch to text, it flips
Yeah.
over that.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right.
All right, now all right. I'll tell her to switch to use her phone.
Bill, you hear us okay?
Yeah, I hear everything real well.
Okay. That's Bill Clark for you guys who don't know him yet.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Bill.
All right. Hi, Tone.
Hey, Deb.
Birthday boy.
It's your birthday too?
Oh,
Hey.
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, way to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tony, we might have are you available tomorrow around 3 o'clock?
I should be. Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm asking you because there's a call that's going to be going on tomorrow at 3 that's going to be really interesting. It's going to be all about our video,
Oh, perfect.
and I'll get into that a little bit, but it's really exciting.
Dana said she's gonna switch over. I told her I was having the same issue and go on her phone, so.
Okay, cool.
Got it. Yeah, Greg, just let me know, what the deal is on that. I'm glad to join in.
Okay, yeah, this is super exciting stuff. I'll explain that as we go along.
Sure.
Greg, I don't know if you saw my reply yet. I sent it just a few minutes before the call. With all the information you wanted. I'm not available tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, you want? Okay. We'll tape it so you can watch it later.
Okay, yeah, that's
Now, okay, so we have to stop saying tape because tape doesn't exist anymore, but it's not that we can't get out of our vocabulary. So someone was saying yesterday, I'm videotaping this. Is that really? You're videotaping it? And like, oh, all right, you're right. Well, that's cool. All right, I don't see Leslie. She's showing up here, but I don't see her in this.
Oh, I see you. And I can hear you. Finally.
That's great.
Excellent.
I don't know what's wrong with my laptop. I can't hear anything off my laptop.
It was the same thing. I think it has to do with the update. You're supposed to update the Zoom, and I did not. I had the same issue, but once I switched over to my phone, I was fine.
Okay. Hi, Greg.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Tony.
Great
Good.
to see you.
You as well. Hi, Tony. Birthday boy.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana. How are you?
Good.
Good. Thank you.
I see that Al's on someplace and Leslie's on someplace also, but neither of them is like checking in for some reason. And it'll be nice when they do. If Al and Leslie, you can hear me or hear us, check in. Or you might want to check out and check in again because for some reason you're not showing up here. And I'll give them a minute or two to figure out what the story is. I see Leslie jumped off and hopefully come back in. So Daniel, what is your son doing? Are they working out? What's the story with them?
Yeah, he works out at the facility 3 days a week, and they can only have 2 players or 4 players in at a time, one at each basket. And then
Wow.
on the off days, he does. They do pickup games at some other place, not in the facility, but another high school, and they all go there and play, 5-on-5.
Dan, you might want to tell the people who don't know you yet exactly who your son is.
Oh, what about me? Forget about my son. It's all about me. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, is it? Okay.
No. My son, I'm joking. My son is he's a rookie for the Los Angeles Clippers. So he's just had his first season with them, and obviously was interrupted by the COVID pandemic. But so they're trying to find ways to keep him engaged, and they actually have a cooking show for him. They created a cooking show for him because he likes to cook.
Oh, it's so cute.
During the quarantine, it was called Man versus Food, MANN versus Food. He just completed his 4th episode yesterday. And actually, the cool thing, listen to this, Sports Illustrated came in and did a photo shoot yesterday with him
That's great.
for the cooking show. So I'm like, hey,
it's hysterical.
if you can't get notoriety playing on the court, get notoriety off the court.
Mhm.
So
awesome.
he's building his brand off the court, and hopefully he'll get a chance to get back on the court and continue to do what he does well. So it's been fun. It's been fun. He's been, he's doing well. Thank you for asking.
That's great. And how are you doing? That's more important, obviously.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank God. Thank God. It could be worse, but things are going well. I'm still enjoying the time off and trying to figure out what's next, but I'm going to wait to see what happens with all this before I move forward into anything. But just loving the opportunity to just pause and spend time with my family and not have to worry about anything outside these 4 walls, which is great. To be honest with you, it's just great to stop and just really appreciate the small things in life,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
Real. Well, that's awesome. So Dania's here because she's a basketball genius. I guess we might as well go through who you guys are. And we're still waiting for Alan and Leslie. For some reason, they're not showing up on in the pictures in the video. So, but let's start off with you, Dania. Let's talk about who you are and what you're planning on doing here.
Oh, okay. I'm a former Division I women's basketball coach. I coached women's basketball for 22 years at the collegiate level. And yeah, I guess basketball is my expertise when it comes to this endeavor. I want to be able to help the, the system with my basketball expertise, just understanding how basketball plays an important part in the lives of student athletes and of people across the world. And I feel like this platform gives basketball an opportunity to just show some of the things that it can do for them in their lives. It's just done so much for me. I've traveled a lot of places, met a ton of people, just had great experiences with basketball, and I want to share that with everyone that's a part of this site. And that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. That's great. Thanks, Dania. Mike, you're a new guy to the group. How about you introduce yourself?
Sure. Usually catfish hunter style hair growing out the sides here.
Who said it's not essential service, man? I had to cut my own hair last week.
Exactly. I just teach at Iona College, sports communication and media program there. Proud to see my students doing well in the field. It's always a good feeling helping out particularly with guidance with the young students. My expertise, I worked in sports radio for 25 years. Worked over at XM Radio for 5 years, producing Baseball This Morning. Also did some anchoring and also a freelance producer with the New York Giants and Compass Media for their college football games and the professional games.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad you're on board, Mike, and glad you're here. How about Bill Clark? What's your story?
Hey guys, I work at NBC right now for like last 39 years. I'm a producer editor for presently the Today Show, but I work with sports. I traveled them for many, many years. I got them on my first of my many Emmy Awards from them in sports. It's a lot of fun. I played college football for a year, semi-pro football as well, semi-pro baseball, and I coached up to high school level of football. So now I'm president. Since I'm hot on the video part and producing part, I'm willing to come out here and help you guys out too as well.
Awesome. Tony, you want to chip in here?
Yeah, sure. My name is Antonio Lopes. I am CEO and founder of two creative agencies, one called Tilt Communications, which focuses on creative content, brand strategy, and diversity consulting, which is very, very hot these days. And with Bravo Charlie Delta, which is a content strategy video agency that produces film and video for the higher ed nonprofit space, doing videos for Harvard, MIT, Auburn University, and the like. Also was a GM in the sports realm, was a GM for Rhode Island's first professional basketball team in 30 years called the Providence Sky Chiefs in the ABA, and which is now dissolved, but I enjoy doing that as well with my friend Deb Weinrich.
Yeah, okay, that's a cue. Okay, Deb, let's talk about you.
God, I've done everything. I was the first female sports editor in Rhode Island, something I did right when I got out of college. Did that for 15 years, covered high school sports primarily in Rhode Island. And then I went out to do PR marketing for a variety. I've worked in baseball. I've worked in basketball with Tony. He was my boss, but he'll never admit that. He's never treated me like a subordinate. We did great things together with an ABA team. We just didn't have the greatest owner. I've worked in baseball. I work with a lot of former athletes that I wrote about that are all, some have gone on to be professionals and some are finished with their career but want to give back on ways of camps and clinics and things like that. I'm actually writing again, doing a lot of freelance high school sports, stuff like that around here in Rhode Island. I do a little bit of everything. I work with Tony on a bunch of projects. Somehow I met Dania a couple years ago and we became best friends. Fortunate enough to go to the draft with her last year, be in her wedding, crazy life that we live together, all of us. I feel like I could help or assist help grow this in so many different ways, with my writing and reporting, as well as my connections in so many different sports, from professional on down to just marketing with different things that Tony and I have worked on together, and even producing like events to help showcase it. I feel like I wear a lot of hats right now.
Excellent. Cool. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna add a
Yes,
couple things. I made a couple quick things I didn't mention, so you guys know. I own a production company called Backdoor Productions. I've done everything from music videos to sports shows with the company throughout the whole country. So that's hopefully another way of getting things done. I'm also a VP of engineering for More Television. I do whenever spare time I have left. I throw it in there. Just feel let you guys know.
Very cool. Very cool.
John, how about you fill us in as what you're doing?
Well, my expertise and experience lies in technology broadly. Specifically, I come from a development background, but have experience through all aspects of technology. I've led teams of up to 20 developers and QA people, websites for mostly in the advertising and marketing industry. So multiple clients, the whole 9 yards. I do enterprise caliber applications and systems, as well as small one-off type websites for small, etc. I ski and I play softball. I've never done anything really past college as far as athletics, but I did was the commissioner of an recreational softball league for 25 years here in Pennsylvania. I continue to play softball and have been playing since 1987 recreationally. It's never recreational. It's always competitive, no matter what level you play. But I've been playing since 1987. This is the first summer that I'm not playing on any team. We just can't play, can't get on fields to play. Really social distance when you're trying to tag someone out or whatever. So it's just not working this year, which will be a change. So I have to find some other athletic routine to keep me in shape. Maybe I have to go to South America to do skiing down there this summer, right?
That'll really stink.
I'm looking forward to kind of managing and being hands-on in the whole technology process as we get Greg's applications and systems off of the existing platforms and technologies that they're using. The effort to get them off is going to be somewhat large, but I think that it's quite doable, and we'll get that into a for the growth that Greg wants to see in the company, that we would all like to see in the company. And I'll be hopefully keeping my hands on all of those aspects, coordinating anything, development teams, as well as all of the different business units. So if there's specific marketing needs or video production needs, I'll make sure that technology is aligned with the business side. That's my goal going forward. And that's where I think I produce the most value.
That's definitely my goal for you too. Kelly, how about you?
John, I hear you with the softball. I miss my old lady softball league. It's been a little bit of a miss. Kelly Patterson. I played Division I ice hockey in college up in Maine for Colby. I full-blown thought I had a career in architecture, interior design out of college. I did not work 1 minute in that. I fell straight into pro sports. So I worked for the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, the New Jersey Devils. I did a brief sprint at Tough Mudder and the Universal Music Group. So I have a predominantly sports background, but a little bit of entertainment as well. Most of the time I spent in licensing, consumer products, corporate marketing, branding. And so I've done a lot of deals with the Nikes, Adidas, those kind of guys, Coca-Cola, Budweiser, launched uniforms, launched new hats, launched new brands, launched new events like the Winter Classic. Got to run on the ice during the Stanley Cup and hand out the hats and T-shirts, which is a skill in heels. I was touted for my running on ice and heels. But yeah, I've 15, I got 18 at this point, plus years careers in professional sports. The last couple of years, I started my own company, and I do consulting, brand building for companies that are looking to get professional sports licenses or sponsorship deals. It's obviously a tricky landscape, so helping those guys kind of navigate those waters. And let's say in the last couple of years, I've done deals with the Rangers, done deals with the Knicks, kind of the old stomping grounds. But looking forward to jumping in with UB Sports and doing a lot with the e-commerce site, and then also helping out with kind of overall strategy and marketing.
That's excellent. Thanks, Kelly. And we have some other participants who are like trying to sign in and then not signing in. Leslie Miller. I don't know if she can hear us or we can hear her. Leslie, you there?
There is a typing chat feature that she could use to either communicate with all of us or with you right in
That's true.
in this call. So maybe you can see if she's even getting that.
I will do it right now. She's not answering, so I don't think. I hope she can hear us anyway.
Did you send it just to her?
Yeah.
'Cause I don't. Okay.
Nothing yet. Well, hopefully she'll hear. Anyway, she's one of the two newest people, and Al also, who is Al Suntag, is also was in and on and off the call as I'm watching, and his deal is that he's an ex-pro baseball player, and he's now running a facility in Port Washington, Long Island, and so he's excited about being involved on the baseball side and also in the management side. He's got some space in his facility in Port Washington, so we might be using that as one of our initial office areas once in a while when we get together. Leslie, I'll wait for her to figure out how to be on either now or sometime in the future. She's also a basketball player. She was All-American for Penn. And she's also got an MBA in business, and she went to Columbia. So hopefully she'll be able to help us with the marketing once she gets settled and we all get cranking. And myself, I've played a number of sports. I've been a coach in a bunch of sports. I was a pro sailor, squash pro at one time, and I still play squash. I still sail. I still ski. And keep my hands in as much as I can. And now I'm cycling a lot now because it's a COVID-friendly sport. But I used to cycle a lot when I was a kid, and so I just got a new triathlon bike. And problem with me is I have a problem going like at a casual pace. So I end up like cranking it, and like at the end of an hour, I'm like, okay, I'm done. But it's a great thing to do, and it is COVID friendly and fits all the things. But yesterday was my first time in 2 months playing squash, and I got to tell you, getting back onto doing something like you used to do before is like such a great feeling. It's such a good thing. So one of the things I started on UB Sports, if you guys have noticed, is something called COVID Crazy, and it's like home workouts and home yoga and chair yoga and workouts for kids and that kind of stuff. And I think that's something that I'd like to promote for more of us to, if we have something that we find that would be good for people at home to work out on, I think it'd be good if we can put that stuff up there. So either text me with the URLs for that kind of stuff, or, we'll see what we can do about getting that stuff onto that site. Because that actually is something that is unfortunately going to be with us for a while still. and you know, there are people who are going to be compromised and won't be able to go out in public, and are going to be forced to work out at home. So let's hope that we can do that more. So if you guys have ideas about that, you know, get back to us. Even if it's, you know, rope jumping practice or something, let's figure out something to do so that we can do it. And I'm like, all right, so what do you do if you don't have dumbbells? I'm like, okay, I grabbed a couple of 2-liter Diet Cokes, put them into plastic bags, and just started doing that for, you know, bicep curls and that kind of stuff. And I think we have to get creative and inventive here in this weird world. But
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great
So-
trend, Greg. You know, I've seen a trend, just quick digression on that. I've seen a trend where not only the workout piece, but it seems like there's this integration now with mindfulness. So not only just the workout, but the whole mental aspect with the whole COVID thing and people staying at home and the increase in domestic violence as a result of being quarantined with somebody. It's been crazy seeing a spike in that. So the integration of those two things could be another thing that could be of value to a lot of people out there, I think.
Yeah, sadly, you're right. That's one of the big things. And I think if we also can, I'll put some meditation things up there so that people can chill out a little bit, because you're right. That's something that I think one of the problems we've had over the past 6 days with people going crazy all around the nation and all around the world is that we've been all contained for 2 months. I think it's sort of like shaking it out in a very antisocial way. But
Mental and the physical.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, running away from the cops and stealing things out of stores seems to be the latest exercise. It's just crazy. But all right, so I wanted to cover a couple things. We're missing like 3 or 4 of our fellow teammates here, and I'm sorry they're not on. But you know, the next time around we'll have them on. Okay, so as far as one of the important parts, obviously, is when we get around to actually being funded and moving this thing along in a really healthy way. We have one guy who I've talked to for about a year, a little more than a year. His name is Frank, and he's been talking about being the full funding for our seed round and possibly for our A round. And that would be great. We're waiting day to day to find out what's going to happen with that. Bill's also been involved with Frank as far as talking to this man and making sure that we're doing things right on that and that he's coming through on that. So that'll be that's one of our potential funding partners. We're also talking to a group that has access to a bunch of capital, and they're working on one. They don't do anything in parallel. Everything's in serial for them. So they're finishing up project last week, I understand. So they might be back in business this week for working on our deal. And then we also have a lady named Dr. Cherie Moore, and she and I have been talking. I'm going to talk to her later on in the day about her, sounds like, dozens of potential investors. So we'll see where that goes. But the bottom line is we're getting real close. And we have a lot of windows open, and hopefully somebody will jump through them. So if Frank jumps through it, we'll be off to the races really quickly. I think it'll be a week or 2 longer if Corey or Dr. Cherie come through, but someone's coming through, that's for sure. And so I wanted to get us all together so we can start working on a plan, first figuring out what each of us is going to do and how we're going to then spread the word about UB Sports and where it goes from there. And we have to then think about like the schedule and the plan for the next 3 or 4 months, and then 6 months, and then year. And that's why I asked you guys in the email to get back to me with what your thoughts were about, you know, where you saw yourself and where we saw us as we went forward. One of the big parts about the site, and more so as we get going here, is going to be video. And more, it's becoming the thing. And as esports grows, one of the really exciting parts of the video side is esports. And you know, we've sort of figured out a way to fit esports under the umbrella of sports in general. And so we had to say there's governing bodies involved, there's tactics, and there's winners and losers. And the way you do it is you're using your mind, then you use your body, and that leads to somebody being a winner or a loser. And so that's how we decided to frame sports that fit under our umbrella, so we could get esports in there. And that makes sense too, because there's also things that you wouldn't consider sports, like darts, billiards, chess, other things, but they still have, national bodies, international bodies, winners, losers, and tactics and strategies and everything else that actually fit under that umbrella of sports. So we've applied to a couple of incubators. We won one. We won the CAI Scale Challenge, and that's actually sponsored by a group that's affiliated with the Walton family, the Walmart heirs. And by winning that, I am going out to Northwest Arkansas in September to meet the Waltons and get involved with their investor groups. And they have lots of investors out there that look for investments that have e-commerce or commerce involved with consumer side of things. So that's going to be very good for us. Also, we are in the final stage of another competition that's being run by Hype Sports Innovation. And that's a group that's based in Europe, mostly the UK. And they're one of the biggest sports investors in the world. And they've already said they want our A round when we get done with our seed round, and we spent all that money and have gotten to the point where we're ready for the A round. So that's really exciting. But they have a competition for esports. And again, as I said, video is really important. We're down to the final stage of the esports thing. If we win that competition, and there's a dozen or so that will win, we end up I'll be going to Europe for that. And it's mostly online, but it's connection with all the big players in esports. As a result of all this intense video stuff, we have people on board here that I think would be very, very valuable. I mean, 4 of us, excluding me, because I'm just, I have done a lot of video on my time too, but we have guys on our board in front of us here that all do that, between Bill and Mike and so we lost John, but also Tony. And we have a meeting tomorrow, a Zoom call tomorrow with one of the brightest minds in video in the world, Andrew Dennis. And that's what I was talking to you about, Tony, at 3:00 tomorrow. And he is not only, about 5 years ago, he had a technology and an algorithm that was 3 times better in compression and coding than Netflix. And Netflix is almost caught up with them now. So he's already on to the next thing. He's on to now AI and quantum computing when it comes to decreasing the lag, as we call in video games, and getting the latency out of video. He's down to something like a quarter of a millisecond in latency. So they're doing a lot of stuff that is massively cutting edge. But in the meantime, he's putting together the requirements for cutting edge video on both the web and phones. So we're going to have those requirements tomorrow when we talk to Andrew at 3:00. We're then going to take that information, bring it to the Hype Sports Incubator, and I think that's going to push us over the top as far as being in the incubator. And that opens up 2.5 million billion gamers in the world, and 150 million esports players right now around the world. Mm-hmm. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that one. Leslie, is that you down there in the bottom? Oh, let's see if we can unmute you. Hold on a second. Okay, there you go. Leslie? Oh, still can't hear her.
Bottom left of your screen is the mute button.
Right.
Well, at least we can see her. Still can't hear you.
Yeah, you can see her.
Yeah. There's John. John's back now too.
I was listening. I just had to turn the video off a minute.
Yeah, no problem. So, John, you heard the important stuff about what's going on tomorrow. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it sounds exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And as I said, as we get more video intensive, this is going to become a very, very big thing. And if we're cutting edge on the video, we'll be able to go to the providers, the actual governing bodies, you know, all the people who are doing that right now, who are running the esports tournaments, and get them all signed on. And they're looking. I had a conference call with them last week, and they said, we're looking for a cutting edge right now that's going to work on phones, it's going to kick butt versus anything else around right now. So that's very exciting for me. And it's going to be great for us. It's one of the things that I know of as an athlete, and I think we all know of, is that we cross-train. We do not just one sport, but other sports, either seasonally or just because we grow out of one sport and go into another sport. And as we do that, we have to make sure that we can provide, as UB Sports, we can provide for the other sports. And that's why I think it's really important to have such a breadth of sports under this umbrella. So we lost Leslie again.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Wow. Okay, cool. So, hi, Leslie.
We've got to walk to the computer science sun, and then it all gets taken care of like that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, we'll break this up. Leslie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am a former athlete from in college, but I've had this kind of side, not hustle, but side passion of moving through the sports as a parent, really. And then my daughter just kind of accumulated her goal to be a Division I athlete. She was recruited, so I had this kind of youth sports. After my experience, I have this kind of youth sports arc with my daughter. So I've been through all different stages of what that entails. And I've coached and been involved, and I'm on the Penn alumni basketball committee with a bunch of local New York people. And so I'm kind of doing that at the collegiate level. I know a lot of the Ivy coaches, and I played basketball at Penn. So, and I was a runner. I just really have a passion for this. And I was talking with Greg recently. We just met. But I think it's a great idea. I think my daughter, who's like a high school senior, and I said, would you be interested in this? Is this like a community you want to be part of? She said, I think it'd be great, if I could have a one-stop shopping where there's nutrition advice or a mentor. And now she's kind of through it and going into college, but I think there's a need for it, and how it's done is, the key, right? The secret sauce. But I think it's something I'm passionate about, and I have a lot of knowledge about, youth sports and how it's changing and how people, get involved and how that community kind of functions, at least from women's basketball and my perspective. So I'm excited to be involved. I have an MBA from Columbia. I studied entrepreneurship and media management. So I'm I think like this, and I think I always have, and I just haven't had a chance to combine like the sports like backdrop of my life with my profession. So I'm excited to try to, get involved in this community that I think there's an intersection here that's being missed between media and technology and sports, right? I don't think anyone's kind of used the three so effectively. And I see a lot of people kind of missing it and trying to figure it out, like recruiters trying to get in as the middleman to recruit for college athletes. And I don't think that's really, there's no real need for that. There's no market for that, right? But there's a lot of things that are coming up, like the NCAA rules with branding athletes. They can profit off their name now. That just happened, right? In like the last year, right? I think that's going to open up a whole different part that could be part of your business. I think those athletes, and not even like the top, the top future stuff, Steph Curry is not those guys, but the other, tier down, these guys could be in that league or be in that upper echelon for whatever sport it is. And, where's their voice, right? They might be part of under your umbrella. They might be a way to try to leverage, what you're doing with sports and technology. And that's going to be a gap that needs to be filled as well. I think that's kind of also, I think about that a lot now, how these athletes can actually profit off their name and brand themselves.
So yeah, Leslie and Dania, I think you're going to have a lot to talk about, being you're both in the basketball world. And yeah, we should figure out how we're going to capture that second tier down. And that's one of the important parts about this, is that we are trying to build a very vertical community. of all sports. So you're starting off with the top pro or top amateur or Olympic athlete, and have that person at the top, and also having the governing bodies up there as well, because they develop the rules and they adjudicate the rules, all the way down to the kid who's 10 years old just starting in the sport, and then their parents, to make sure that the parents know what they have to do to get the kid to the next level. Those are all, what UB Sports is all about. So as we develop, this is our culture, and we have to develop a way to express this to the population and get them excited about participating in those ways. So that's really cool. Back to what I want to do is I want to make sure that we're thinking in, once we get funding, there's 90 to 100 days that the developers are going to need to develop. And what we need to do is make sure that we have the requirements that each of us can think of what to do and how to get in there, and where we go and how we want to present ourselves, and then what we want to have as facilities 3 months, 4 months down the road when we start marketing this to the new world. And it's going to be a whole new world when we get out there, when COVID starts to chill out a little bit. And we have to make sure that we're presenting something that'll work for that, and that we're supporting these people as they're working out individually, and then as people get back to actually playing contact sports one way or another. And I guess we'll all end up having the virus or having a shot for it. And we'll be back on the courts and the fields and the ice with any luck. And so we want to make sure that when we're talking to each other and when we're thinking individually about UB Sports, what UB Sports should look like, what facilities we should have, what services we're offering, and how we communicate with everybody and how they communicate with each other, and how we develop this to seamlessly work with your real world life, because we have to make sure that we're doing that. That's really, really critical. So we have 3 months after we get funded until the developers are going to be ready. So we have time to do that kind of stuff, but we have to be in touch with each other and figure out, make sure that we're ready to go, and who wants to do what when we get done. Obviously, Kelly's sort of taken the lead on the e-commerce side, and the guys who here are working on video and that kind of stuff. We're going to have to figure out how to coordinate that launch when we get around to doing it, and make sure that we're doing everything right on that side of things. But also we have to go around and find videos. And as we go around and find videos that should be represented on UB Sports, we need to find out how we're going to build that. They call it a player window, what the player looks like. And when you go on YouTube, I don't know about you guys, when I'm looking at YouTube, it drives me crazy, because after you search for something, you get that first couple of videos that are what you're looking at. All of a sudden, you're looking at things that have nothing to do with what you were asking for. Mm-hmm. So my first couple of videos are squash. I'm watching squash. That's really cool. It's squash. All of a sudden, I'm looking at a hula hoop championship, and it doesn't make any sense at all. And what I want to do is make sure that as we're building this, the logic's there, and the directories work, and we have something that's representative, where we're setting up the categories of videos, and we're also able to go from one video to another video, or go from one sport to another sport in the way that we're looking for. If I'm looking for training for squash, and then you have they know already. UB Sports knows what sports I play. So if they show me then training for tennis, or training for skiing or sailing, they're keeping me in what I was looking at in the first place, what I asked for one way or another. So it's like a double directory. It's one, it's the sport that I'm playing. The other thing is what I'm there to look at. And I'd like to be able to make sure that our technology is working the way we think. And if our technology is intuitive, and as we develop an AI side of things, that'll be very critical for people really staying, keeping the traction and keeping the stickiness of the site as we go forward. So that's really what I wanted to start talking to you guys about and getting you all involved in. And I'd like to have some kind of a running forum where we can all talk to each other. And also, there's already portal on UB Sports, conveniently, that is set up to actually have documents and video and ways to talk to each other. And if we all become friends on UB Sports, we can communicate all the time right there on UB Sports. So I would suggest that we all work on that, see if it's, number one, make sure it's working and that it's comfortable, and we know that we're doing the right thing as we develop the next version of UB Sports. And that's all critical. And if it blows up and it doesn't work, then let's just start chats and make sure that we're all on the same, text string and go that way.
I mean, you could use Slack, right? Slack's an option.
Sure, we could use Slack. There are a few other technologies we could use. And Slack's a obviously very viable one. It's used by millions of companies, so we could do that. So anything else anybody wants to talk about? Okay, cool. What we'll do
the one thing I want to make sure to let you know is that the reason why YouTube does that is because it's word associated too. So you have to watch how we set that up. So you say championships, you get every championship.
Right.
You don't get squash, you don't get everything. So you may see your squash, then you'll see hula, hula hoop, and then see all the others underneath it. So we have to watch, even though it's word associated, we can still keep that kind of separate.
Exactly. And as we go through a directory, what I'd like to see is starts off at least with the sports that it knows that I like. So if I have a membership on YouTube, and theoretically they should know what I like in the first place. And also from my prior searches, they should say, oh yeah, the guy likes sailing, skiing, that kind of stuff. So it should click in somehow that I, what I like. And that's, as we develop, the site will know immediately where to start. And as we spread out, that's fine. We can go wherever we want to go. I can watch a darts thing if I wanted to. Actually, I would like to watch some dart videos and see how you do that. Because all I know is that you throw things at a board. I don't know. But those kind of things would be fun. It'd be fun to have, as this thing develops, how we work out the technology so that fun stuff pops up on UB Sports Live into the UB Sports universe. And it becomes like the wide world of sports in 2020 version.
Yep. So
I don't know, guys, what do you think? Is it something we should?
I think it's great. So just along those lines, Greg, so thinking about, and this is too far ahead, let me know, draw me back, slap me around. But once the new iteration of the portal's built and how that ever looked, I don't know what you're thinking around that. Love to hear your vision, what you think the changes would be, what's major in that. But then there's a lot of folks on the call will know there's a digital strategy around that, how you drive eyeballs to the site. So I don't know how much thought you've given to, how you're going to message out to drive eyeballs to the site, or is that too far down the line until it's actually built? Any thoughts around that?
Sure. About 15 years worth.
That's all?
Yeah, it's been very, very critical for me. And people have always said that, how are you going to market it? It's such a big plan. You can just talk to 5 billion people around the world, and just how are you going to do that? And obviously the simple, you start with things that are industry standard: search engine optimization, search engine marketing, AdWords, ad choices, Facebook ads, Twitter ads, Instagram now. I mean, the ones that are rote, that's really simple. Mm-hmm. What we had to do is, I want to make sure that we're getting the right people and get the right organizations involved. And the great thing about sports is that it's very organized, sport by sport. You start off with the governing body. You've got, let's say we take, track, USA Track and Field. You start there. And that's an organization that's a member of a worldwide organization of track and field organizations.
Right.
And they have subsets of each one. There's USA Running, USA Triathlon, USA Marathon. But under that umbrella is USA Track and Field. In the United States, there are something like 100 million people involved in track sports in one way or another. So if I can get USA Track and Field involved and excited, they have tens of millions of people that they have direct connections with, that they can reach out and say, hey, you really should be on UB Sports. Now, why are they going to do that? Because we have a revenue sharing plan set up for USA Track and Field. For every member they bring in, using a referral code, so we know that USATF brought them in. We can pay them 15% of the ad revenue they generate per year, and we'll pay it on a quarterly basis. That works out to about $1 per person. So let's say they have 20 million people they bring on board. They're going to get, roughly speaking, $20 million a year. That's pretty effective. We've spoken with the U.S. Tennis Association a lot, and we've even built the USTA Players Portal. That goes alongside their our site and their site. It sort of melds the two. So all their resources and all other resources from YouTube and other places where we can get videos for and other information for tennis ends up on the USTA Players Portal. USTA has 25 million people who play tennis in the United States. Of that, 750,000 people are already members of the USTA. So they stand to get, roughly speaking, $750,000 a year. That really sort of pushes their buttons, and they have to work with us because that's a lot of money. But when you talk to the lower profile sports like USA Badminton, which we have a relationship with already, they have 20,000 people who are members. Their budget for the year might be, if they're lucky, $200,000. So if we add $20,000 to their bottom line, that's going to help them a lot in what they can do.
Yeah.
So that's basically how we're going to go. We're going to go to the governing bodies, and I've already been to Colorado Springs and to the other governing bodies for about 8 years now.
Right.
They all know about UB Sports. Originally, we were going to call it Zeus. We ended up calling it UB Sports at this point. And UB Sports, in case somebody asks, didn't start off this way, but what it means now, or the actual marketing right now is UB stands for You Belong.
Nice.
So it makes sense. It's a holistic sound, and it does. It fits what we're trying to do. Who fits under this umbrella? So that's a smart marketing way to look at it. And it's true. We're trying to bring everybody under this umbrella, make sure that everybody feels like they belong. When I first came up with this idea, just to take it back a little bit, I was very frustrated. I was solitary. I was a squash player. I had been working in tech portfolios on the investment side for about 10 years already. I had been dealing with the web for about 7 years by that time. And I was really frustrated. And I was saying, there's got to be a way we can use, I can find out who plays in sports around me in the sports that I play. And there's no way to do that. And I was at the Nationals for squash back in 2001. And I'm speaking to my friend, and he says, well, so where do you live? And I said, well, I live in Locust Valley. He goes, I live in Locust Valley. I had no idea. And he and I were like top 10 players in the nation. And we looked at each other, we said, this is really stupid. How do we not know that we live next to each other? So obviously it became important for us to figure that out as we go forward. And as this got bigger and bigger, we realized that we could really use the web to bring everything together and bring the whole community into one space. And I was frustrated because I felt so solitary. I work out every day, and I was working out every day. I'd go into the squash court alone, hit a squash ball. I'd go out and I'd run by myself. I'd go out and cycle by myself. And I felt like I was doing this all on my own. And then I realized more and more that there are people all around me who are doing the same thing. And I was thinking, here I am on AOL. At the time, that's what is it, like 5 different ways you could be on the web, and AOL is one of the 5. So I'm there on AOL, and I'm thinking, this is really horrible that I feel so alone, but I know there are like 100 million people on the site. And one of the things that I really wanted to impress as I went forward in this venture was that we're not alone. Every one of us is, when we work out, there are a million other people working out, doing what I'm doing with the same kind of goals. And I want to make sure that we feel like we're a part of this big community. And that's when I started the UB Universe. That really is, I want people to feel like they're a member of this great community. Number one, of all athletes and all participants in sports. But then also you break down to my sports that I play. So there's a sub community for each one of those. Mm-hmm. And then as I get smaller, there's a local community of athletes that I might want to go out and run with or cycle with and stay in shape with. So that really is totally different from what you do when you sign up for Facebook. You're an individual, you're thrown into this 2.5 billion people. You don't know anyone. You have to start trying to find people who you know of or know or heard about, and you're trying to make a relationship with people out of the blue. What I'd like to do is make sure that people come together because they have this immediate similarity. We're all into sports. We're all into staying healthy. We're all into a lifetime of being fit, and we should be all together and working as a group, as a community. And the more I can support that, the better I'm going to feel. And that was.
Can I ask a question? Can I just ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like the arc of the child who's 10, you go up to the, even at maybe Olympian, that's one arc. And then you try to also catch the adults. You want to catch adults that are like, in their adult life and have that kind of arc as well. Or are you trying to just kind of focus on like youth up to like, collegiate, like, my daughter and then maybe beyond? Or is it like the lifelong from like, the child all the way to the man who's 50 who wants to just go cycling with some friends he may not know about? Like, is it that big, or is it more like very specific, like competitive?
No, it's absolutely from the day you start playing any kind of sport to the day you die. There's, if you're into it, if that's your life, why would, there's something that happened to me when I graduated from college is that I was working out every day. I was really in shape. It was really great. My community of athletes were all around me. I graduated. It's like I fell off a cliff. I went from working out every day to all of a sudden, who do I play with? It became, I was thrown out. I was like kicked out of my world. And what I want to do is make sure that everybody doesn't have that cliff, that you don't gain 20 pounds the next 2 years after you get out of college. I want to make sure that we have a way to stay in that with people who are around and then people who we find around our area. And that's critical. But then as we get older, if you think about it, our needs evolve as we evolve. Number one, as we age, we're not going to be playing with a bunch of 18-year-olds. We're going to be playing with 25-year-olds and then 30-year-olds. Then we end up playing in the Masters tournaments. I'm playing in the 60-plus tournaments, and or the 50-plus doubles tournaments. And that's what happens. But I still need the same stuff. I still want to watch the same videos. I still have to buy my equipment. I have to buy new shoes. I have to do all that kind of stuff. Nothing changes. So there's no reason why we have to say, okay, you aged out of.
Yeah, I kind of asked. I think, like, I looked at my daughter, and we were talking about this because I watch her do this, and her community, like that teenage, she's a high school senior, Division I recruit. She knows a lot of their community. It's all based on social media, and someone that's your age or my age or anyone else listening that our age, it's a whole different way of connecting. So you're almost, it's like 2 generational ways of finding community, and hers is even through as athletes, it's all through social media. So social media catches that whole net of athletes that you want to catch as well, right? For that younger generation. And then the older generation, it's going to be a different way of catching them. They're not going to be on Twitter, it's just a different way of thinking how community is formed at different ages. So I'm just thinking you have to think about that as you approach this. I'm just trying to understand, like, how you approach something like that. But yeah, it's, of course, I agree with you. It should be like the whole, your life cycle from start to finish as an athlete.
One of the really cool things, I get this thing called marketing charts, and it comes out like every couple of days. They have another chart, and they had this chart that started. They showed what that looked like, what social media looked like in people's lives, by age group. And it started off back in 2000, I think they started, and it showed you're right. We showed all the kids, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, they're all up there. And all of a sudden, it crashed off the cliff down to like almost zero past 60. If you look at that chart now, it sort of sags around 45 to 50. But then after that, it goes up in social media, which is really interesting because as people get further along in their years, they actually do want to connect with their grandchildren and that kind of stuff. And really the way to do that is through Zoom meetings, as we all know now, and through social media. So that curve is flattened out a lot. So even though I'm 62 years old, I'm on all the services. and I communicate with people on Facebook and Twitter. I don't really like Twitter, but everything else I love. Instagram is like so cool, and all these social medias is what we do now. But part of being on UB Sports is that we're connected through all the other services, and you can set it up when we develop our next version of UB Sports. You'll have the ability to have updates when you do something on UB Sports, or when you win a tournament, or if you take up a new sport, that can go on your timeline for Facebook. And the videos and the pictures that you take, that you put up on UB Sports, automatically gets put up on your videos and photos on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and the rest. So it's actually built to integrate seamlessly with all the other services. So you could say, yeah, I don't like Facebook, I don't like Twitter, that kind of stuff. So you can just choose not to have stuff on there. But on the ones that you are involved, those photos go right up on Instagram or Pinterest or whatever, and we're making sure that those are all connected. There's no reason not to. And it's simple, it's pain-free, and it's seamless. So that goes without saying that we have to take care of the social media as we go forward, and that's why we're marketing there too.
Greg, yeah, marketing is the biggest thing there. There's a setup on Facebook, especially, so you can have, every time something new comes on, automatically kicks onto like almost like a marketing advertisement, pops up on everybody's Facebook.
Yeah,
and it's a link right to the UB Sports. So it's part of a package deal. You can get that set up to actually do that, so that you always be connected to everybody. So they can connect, and they can connect to us anytime they want.
And as a site, it's behind the scenes it's called Facebook Connect, and it allows you to, every time somebody signs in using their Facebook, this is something really shady that you have to watch for, but I love, is that if you sign up using your Facebook credentials onto another site, they can get access to all your friends and your timeline and all that kind of stuff. So not only do you sign up, but all your friends become likely candidates to get something from Facebook saying join. So that's a little cute little twist they do, but it's great for us because you immediately have access to hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of new people. And okay, I see Al here. He finally got on. Al, you want to give us a quick talk about who you are?
Yeah, I had some struggles getting on, but I'm on now. Hello, everybody. I'm Al Sontag, former baseball player. Now I own an indoor sports facility in Port Washington, New York, where we basically do all sports all day. It's a 13,000 square foot facility with 10 batting cages that open up to a 130 by 80 foot turf field. So it's all sports all day for kids of all ages. And obviously we're shut down now. Look forward to opening up soon. And met Greg a few months ago, and I'm really excited to be on board.
Excellent. Cool. Well, the recording will be available, so you can watch all the stuff that you missed, Al.
Okay, great. Thanks.
If you care. I mean, you don't necessarily have to care, but so okay. I think we're just any other comments or thoughts about what we're doing?
Greg, I have a couple questions, comments, if I may. You had said about the 90 to 100 days once we're funded to build out the app, the new apps or the websites, et cetera. And I know that you had mentioned that you were starting to engage with a developer who could do that starting then. I assume that hasn't started. You're waiting for that initial funding. What's driving the 90-day, 3-month time frame? And is that changeable at any point? Because we're never going to be able to include all of our vision within 90 days. That's just going to be impossible to do. So there's going to have to be prioritization over what do we do first, et cetera. So I'm curious whether the 90 days is fixed from that funding date because of a commitment you've made to the investors, or if it's changeable to match the priorities that we feel are necessary in that first release? So that's the first question.
I think that, first of all, there's 90 days is what, if you recall, we were talking to the My Zeal people, and they gave us the 90 to 100 days time frame. So I was going by that. I think 3 months will put us in September, and that would be when most of the schools that are starting will start in September again. And it would be good to have an offering to them as soon as possible. So if we can start offering them the site as it's being rolled out, and we start off with a minimum viable product, which is MVP, is what they use as the slang for that. We can take it from there and run with it. But I expect to have the majority of the stuff we have available right now on UB Sports available in 90 days by that team, if they're the team we decide to go with. And I'm pretty sure I'd like to go with them. I think they have great capabilities, and they gave us that 90 to 100 days themselves. So I'd like to run with that. They also are apps, I think, about the same time frame. I think the apps are going to be important too as we develop what we're doing. So I think that we're using that, but obviously that's flexible. Luckily, we didn't have to worry about missing the Olympics. Not luckily for them, but luckily for us.
Okay.
And
So I guess it's fair to say that it's not because you're making some commitment to produce something to the investors at that
no, I
point.
think the commitment has to be to ourselves. You know, when we have UB Sports working right now, right, and it's doing okay, and the switch over to the new UB Sports is going to be because it's ready to go, not because there's any time frame that we have to slam this thing into.
Okay. The second question is, do you expect the rollout to be exclusive to the United States, or do you expect it to be global initially? And the reason I ask that is because we certainly have to put some consideration before you start getting a lot of registrations and things like that regarding privacy. Because obviously the GDPR in Europe, the privacy laws in Europe are much different than the US. And the biggest decision we're going to need to make is, are we going to have separate privacy policies for United States citizens versus European citizens? How do we address and identify those differences among our membership and subscribers? Or are we going to go with the most restrictive set, which currently is the European GDPR? So do you have a plan on where we're targeting this initially?
Well, unfortunately or fortunately, 80% of the people who have already joined UB Sports are from overseas, through no fault of our own. We haven't tried to do that, but we found that there are some groups that have formed that are overseas, and in the UK, and mostly UK and India. But that's because the sports that we are talking about are international sports. And we've just found a lot of squash players, a lot of badminton players, a lot of, believe it or not, cricket players have joined, and of course a lot of football players, soccer players, sorry. And so it's naturally, they're international sports, more so than they are national sports. And they've joined UB Sports out of serendipity. So I think we have to go with the GDPR as something we have to be concerned about. But frankly, what we're asking for to join UB Sports is not public. What we're asking for you to show us is your whatever name you pick, and
yeah, but you have to provide the ability to allow them to request and get you to drop all of their info, to show them what you've done. And obviously, as you go to market, you're going to be sending marketing communications either to existing members or to potential acquisitions. So, that type of thing, I think, becomes important to understand that up front.
I think we have to, you're right. We should dive into that, because I think you're right. we do have to think about the more restrictive side of things, and make sure we don't step on any, we don't want to step on any international laws and end up in trouble. So do what we have to do. That's what we have to do. And we found the same thing. There's a new restriction on children or youths under 18 by the USOC and the governing bodies. So, I mean, it's a little bit more than COPPA. COPPA is the Child Protection Act of the United States. And we have to make sure that we're covering that as well. Make sure that we're staying within the guidelines there. It's interesting, the new requirements are basically what we set up internally a few years ago as our being hyper on UB Sports to protect children. I thought I was like over the top, and they're even more over the top than we are.
What did you say the USOC requirement was? Under 18 or 18 and under?
It is under 18, but it's a matter of having an adult supervising your activities on the site, starting at a higher age. It used to be 12 or 13. Now they've moved it up to 15 at least, depending on the governing body. So, which is fine with me because ours go up to 17. And, at between 15 and 17, what we've had is an opt-in, opt-out for the parents to be involved on either an action-by-action basis or just on saying, okay, I have an opportunity to oversee what your kids are doing, or actually saying, you're not allowed to join this group, you're not allowed to have this person as a friend, that kind of stuff. So there were actually radio buttons on the parental supervision side of things up to the 17. So we are going to have those restrictions as well, but make sure that they are also complying with the USOC and the governing bodies, because that's our bread and butter. As I was telling Tony before, we are making sure that we're complying with all those guys, because that's how we're getting our people. That's, we're getting one organization that happens to have connections with 20,000 people or 20 million people or 200 million people. So that's our goal, is to make sure that we're complying and that they want to play with us as much as we want to play with them. So let's work on that. Let's see what the GDPR rules are, make sure that we're at least providing for that.
Right. Okay. My third question has to do with video and some of the content. I know that right now you have the ability to curate content. So if you see a particular training video on how to, improve your serve in tennis, let's say, or something, and you find this video on YouTube or wherever out in the ether, an ambassador or coach or trainer or somebody can, embed that link in their portion of the portal. Do we plan, obviously there has to be a way to manage those kind of links, because those things come and go all the time. So I would assume if it's user generated or ambassador generated, it kind of falls their purview to maintain those. But if they don't, or they're sloppy, it kind of falls back on the site to make sure that you're not producing a lot of bad links to videos or things that may have become obsolete. So when you find stuff like this, be sports to try to acquire a license to that content so that we can put it on our own media servers, or do you expect to continue to allow people to link out to these other sources that could make it appear as though the quality of your production is not that great?
Can I answer 1 second, Greg?
Sorry?
Can I answer that 1 second?
Yeah,
Part of it at least. The videos that are done for anybody else but yourself, especially these companies that make you training videos, they have a credit up there. They have the rights for it. They own it. So when a trainer uses their video, if it goes online somewhere or out to the public, if they don't get permission from the person who made the videos for this, they'll get sued and have to pay a fine. So you can get the rights from the company, the person or person who owns it, make an arrangement, say, I will give you a 1% or whatever kind of deal you make. I'll pay you $1,000 to use this on our website. That's okay. Other than that, anything that's built outside we have to get the rights to use. No matter what length of time it lasts for 10 days, it lasts for 10 years. That's what happens with that. That's what we do at NBC a lot too. If we build our own, then we can do our own management on that and make sure it's okay and it's ours. We have the rights to it. We control what's going on. No one else does. So that we can manage what we have to keep it organized and update it as we go along.
So it sounds like if you find a particular video out on the public internet somewhere, that we would have to put in place some controls over, ambassadors or trainers and other members from posting those links, or is that does that fall under the same way that you might post a link to a video on Facebook or something?
You need the rights. Yeah, I think once you get the rights, the approval from the company that we get it from, the people who are training somebody want to use that on their website for us for proper training on that, have to get approval by us to put it on there.
So Greg, that could throw a wrench in the ability to allow members of the site to post links out that they want to use. And I don't know if it would apply to just the regular athletes who post their own content links, or if it would apply only to trainers and things of that, coaches and things. So I think it's something that warrants much more research in order to identify what's going to be appropriate for us and what kind of controls we have to put in.
Okay, so on that, there are a couple of things. One is whenever somebody puts up a video on YouTube, they are, number one, making it part of the public domain. Number two, they basically have to click off a disclaimer saying that they have access to that video and that it's available to put up there. So by taking something off of YouTube or Vimeo, it's already in the public domain, and it's not something you have to worry about rights for. If they are not allowing not allowing anyone to take that video and put it someplace else, they have already set up basically a button that says you can't share this with anybody, that it can only stay on YouTube. And so they've already built in that protection on that. So, if I were going to be, sleazy and do one of these screen things where I can save the video that I'm watching and then posting it someplace else, we're not going to be doing that, obviously. But two, we're making sure that by the time we get the video, someone else has already said that it's available for the public domain. But what's even cooler about that, as that goes forward, we will be able to offer subscriptions for stuff that isn't public. And let's say somebody like IMG is offering a video training system for $20 a month. That's 20% of our planned revenue. I'm planning on going to those subscription providers, getting them to work with us. So that $20, 20% of that $20, $4 a month per person who's watching that subscription ends up in our pockets. For that, there's a licensing that we get that then we pass on to the individual user who's using the videos. So we've actually made 20% on that transaction.
Yeah. So do you expect that we'll need to implement some kind of a, for lack of a better term right now, like moderation? Like, do we have to have moderators, people monitoring the links to videos and other content that they're posting to make sure that we remain in compliance?
Well, first, that's only going to be important for the videos that we get that somebody loads up onto UB Sports into our database. Because otherwise, we're just cross-linking out. And when there's a link out to another public source, again, that person is already clicked on that button that said, I have access, I have rights to this video.
Okay.
So I don't think it's be quite as big a deal, but it's something that we should pass by the lawyers and say, okay, how do we protect ourselves against this? And I think you're right. We should have that same button on that rights protection on our site to make sure that when somebody loads a video that they do have access to it. Yes, Leslie?
I think part of his question, if I understood, I think also what he was getting at, it sounded to me like it's like curated content. Like how much of this you want to, like who's going to be like in charge of, men's squash or women's tennis and men's golf, because if you don't, yeah, the idea is you want it big and you want eyeballs and you want it this, the bigger the community, the better, because anyone who shares a passion for the sport, whatever sport it is, that's the community, right? By definition, and it can spiral out like a spider web, which is great. But I think if I'm correct, he's trying to ask also, are you going to, curate this and kind of keep tabs of the content? Is there like I don't know what the ambassador role is, or if there's someone in charge of that sport who's watching what's on your site, and not the links out external, but what's on your your site. Is that part of the question? I think that's what I was understanding.
And yeah, that's actually a good part of what. That's a good question, because as far as in my thought, and it's good that everybody knows this, the ambassador, who is going to be either a U.S. Olympic athlete or pro who has committed to work a few hours a week on this. At this point, there won't be too many people uploading videos onto each one of these sports. So the ambassador, when somebody loads a few basketball videos onto their page, the ambassador can go look at that. Now, the person who's loaded those videos on can request the ambassador to take that video and make it as part of the portal for basketball, let's say. So I think I have really great skills and drills videos. Ms. Ambassador, I would like you to think about using these skills and drills videos on the portal itself, on the more broad portal. So then everybody could use those skills and drills videos. So that's the first layer. The other layer is that we will have community managers who are watching all videos coming in. And so they'll have the ability to see what is being developed. And if something's bad, one of the critical parts of this is that we're building protections for the younger athletes and the younger members, so that they don't see something that's inappropriate. And so there'll be, whenever you're looking at a video that's on UB Sports or any kind of content on UB Sports, there's going to be a button there saying, this is inappropriate, like red flag it, at which time it gets shut down immediately, and then a community manager has to look at it. If somebody has put up one or two inappropriate videos, we've got to talk to them about, what they're doing, and tell them that they can't put up any more videos, and just, turn off their button for uploading. They can't do it anymore. But if conversely, if they're really good at it and they want their videos to be seen by other people, we can give them a trusted provider button, where whatever they put up is, I'm a coach. I'm a high school coach. I'm going to put up stuff that's relevant to players in the sport. And my stuff's going to be good because I'm a coach and I know what the sensitivities are, and that this is appropriate for, youth in the first place. So I want to make sure
that's kind of like Huddle, right? That's what Huddle does. Huddle, their kind of game is to just let kids, like youth athletes, and promote their tapes or videos, and that's kind of what the function of Huddle is. I mean, I don't love Huddle, but I'm just saying that's open season, so you welcome that, right? That's something that that's gonna come to you eventually. I imagine if it's youth sports, everyone's gonna put their videos up in high schools, and kids promoting themselves to get recruited, or just their local soccer team. You're gonna get everybody. It's gonna be like a moth to light, I would imagine. It's just another way to get images out there of themselves. And kids are promoting themselves too, just not for fun, but they're trying to get recruited, or whatever, share with their friends. It crosses over many different areas of that youth sports. And youth sports is so huge now. It's such a huge business, right? It's a business now. So you're trying to catch all of that, right?
Absolutely. That's that's great when someone starts doing that kind of stuff and starts setting up their profile. And when we build this next version of the site, the profile that we build can be immediately used by ourselves for scouts to look into what we're doing. And we'll set up as we go along ways to verify our stats. If someone says I throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, there's a way you can verify that. You can have a video with the coach, a catcher, the pitcher, and a speed gun, a radar gun. And you can have that all in video. It takes 30 seconds of video for you to load up that 95-mile-an-hour fastball. So there'll be something called UB Verified. It's a little badge that you get, a little gold thing with the UB in the middle. And that's going to be used across all stats. If you want to prove that you did something, we'll have ways and manuals and how-tos to validate that. And then we'll have people who are the community managers. They're also going to be looking for number one, ways to validate, and two, as those stats get validated, to give those little badges to those individual stats. So as we develop this database, we have to make sure that we have that available, that verification part for each one of those stats as we do that.
I would assume we can just segment the videos. Like, so for instance, like if we even did a UB recruits and segment all the recruiting type of videos. I know hockey does a great job. There's a bunch of websites that the recruiters, the parents, and the athletes all use, and it's one spot. And I got to be honest with you, like, I could care less if your kid's getting recruited for pro baseball. Like, I don't want to look at that because there's 5 million kids out there that are getting recruited. So, like, my thought would be if we segment it, it makes like an athlete that's an older athlete that wants to watch like a paddle video. Like, I think that we can kind of start to segment them, because I just think that there's going to be hopefully a really large adult athlete community on this website that really could care less about the teenagers trying to get recruited for sports. Like, I think if you segment it out, and honestly, it's a huge business. So, I mean, you could segment and that could be a huge part of it, but I think we can just put it in certain categories so that people that don't want to have to look at them, they can kind of get pulled aside.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, whenever you go to look at videos, it's not going to be, the only time you're going to see a video that you didn't ask for is either on the UB Universe page, the general page you first go into. And that's because the most watched video across sports is going to show up there. So either that or the person who's watching over the UB Universe portal is going to say, this is so important, I want everybody to see it. It might be the last 10 minutes of the Super Bowl or something like that. But everybody's got to see this is the best thing in the whole world. A couple of years ago, that Patriots game where they were down like 28-3 with 20 minutes to go, that kind of stuff is, you know, everybody should see that. When the Olympics start and they have the initial parade or the closing parade, that kind of stuff is, everybody should see that, because that's a world event. But other than that, I think it should be whatever's being watched the most recently rises to the top, and people see that. On the individual portals for each sport, the ambassador would have an opportunity to say, this is what people should be watching. It's the nationals or whatever for that sport. Other than that, again, the most popular sport, the most popular video for that sport would float to the top. And there should be a toggle for the ambassador to do that.
Greg, I got to bounce. I'm so sorry.
No problem. I'm glad you're on, Kelly.
Team, so nice to see everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
So Greg, I have one more question, just because I know I came late. I apologize to everybody if I'm repeating. So your 90-day window is to try and do like a soft launch to kind of revamp the aesthetics and technology of the existing website. That's like the 90-day kind of push, and then you're going to tweak the technology and try to build the community along the way until next summer. That's kind of the timeline?
We have the site is up right now on UB Sports. And we can be using that until the time that we turn the key on the new site and the new apps. And the 3 apps we're building right now, only one of them is relevant for the general public, and that's the UB Sports app. It'll have a lot of the same uses that we're doing with UB Sports right now. The other 2 apps, one is for athletic trainers. Cool thing about athletic trainers, they're the people who sit on the sidelines of regular the field and the ice, and they're watching what's going on in case somebody gets injured. They're the ones that run out with the stretcher and take someone off when they're injured, and get them rehabbed and back out on the field over the next couple months. There are 85,000 of them in the United States. The average trainer has hands-on with 500 to 1,000 athletes per year. So just by bringing in those 85,000 trainers, and I've had a lot of conversations with the National Athletic Trainers Association over the years, that's about 20 million people they're going to have hands-on contact with. So if we build an app that helps them schedule getting those people into the training room and getting them trained and then getting them rehabbed and back out, and then also prior to them getting injured, you want them stretching out and doing all that kind of stuff before they go out to play. and before the season starts. So the trainers are hopefully taking care of the athletes beforehand, then during the competition, and then rehabbing them if they get hurt. So over that year, 500 people to 1,000 people are touched by that trainer. So that's a great thing to be doing for us, because we'll, those millions of athletes will have to be on UB Sports in order to get to the app, so they can find out when they're supposed to be at the trainer's room. So that's really critical for that side. The other one is just really, there's a site called, or an app called MindBody, and is an app that helps a studio trainer, a yoga class trainer, or a TRX trainer, or one of those people to get their facility organized. And they have hundreds or thousands of athletes involved or people involved under them. So another app is going to be sort of a replacement for MindBody that also combines all the capabilities of UB Sports. So again, those people have to join UB Sports to get to the UB app for that. So what we're trying to do is provide, and that we'll get paid like not much, $5, $10 a month for those two apps by each one of the trainers. But that's really, we just assume pay them. If they're going to bring all those people onto UB Sports, that $5 is just to make them feel like they're getting something that's valuable. Because people have this perception, if they don't pay for something and it's free, it's not worth anything because they didn't pay for it. But even if it's like $5, some minimal amount, all of a sudden they're attached to it on another level. So if it helps them do their business, and that business is bringing people into their facilities, they feel like they're getting some good value from it, and it costs them a little bit, but we're really getting the lion's share of the value by bringing those athletes onto UB Sports. So those are the three apps that we're planning on building in the first 3-4 months. And as far as the time frame goes, it's really just, that's the time frame that developers say that it's going to take 90 to 100 days to turn it around. But I'd like to start one thing I'm afraid of is bringing too many people on before we have the new UB Sports out, because the new UB Sports is going to have a new look, a new feel. It's going to feel more modern. Right now it feels very corporate and it doesn't feel very live. What I want to do is make sure that we have the ambassadors working each one of the portals for each one of the sports, make sure that video, that other content on there is current. So when people go on there, they're seeing something that happened in the past couple of days, past week, past 2 weeks, and they feel like they're getting some value from that side of things. Right now, a lot of the content on there is a year, 2 years old, and that all has to be updated. So there's a number of reasons why I'm saying 90 days to relaunch and to get that stuff going. I think we really have to start cranking on bringing in a population a month before that, because it's going to take a while for the organizations we speak with that have 100 or 1,000 people in their organizations onto the other side where they're referring their members. And it's going to be about, anywhere between 2 weeks to 8 weeks for them to go through that process. So we do have the facility. So if they happen to load up immediately, I talked to somebody 2 months down the road and they say, this is great, I'm going to talk to my members tomorrow. And they do. The site's up, it works, it's doing okay. And we can start saying, listen, this is our beta. This is the last chance you have as a member to put your fingerprint on what we're doing and make sure that we're doing it right. So if we have a feedback loop on that side of things, it would be helpful for everybody. And as we're doing that last month of development, we'll be able to grab things that we shouldn't do and things that we should do that we're not planning on doing as we get to that last part of that development cycle. So,
Hey, Greg, I have one question though.
yeah, Bill.
Who's going to be responsible for the uplinking and downlinking of all the videos? Is it the ambassadors going to be doing it in each particular sport and every event, or is it going to be somebody else on top of that overseeing everything? Because I don't think we should let anybody else do it on their own. It's got to be, we have to allow it to come through.
So first off, there is a personal portal that everybody has. They have their own personal site on this. We call it a personal portal, and it's your own profile. And when you upload something as an individual member, you can load whatever you want onto your portal. and that's only for you. If you, there are 3 buttons. There's one for curated content. If you copied something from someplace else and you know there's a licensing or a rights thing there, you click curated content. That content's immediately noted as coming from someplace else. You know, with special thanks from ESPN, for example, that'll pop up on stuff that comes from ESPN. If it's not curated, it's brought in by the member, and the member can only want to keep it on their portal, or they can say, I would like the portal for this sport to catch it and show it to other people. If they click that, then the ambassador has to decide whether or not it ends up on the sport portal. So that's when you're talking about that rights and all that kind of stuff. That's when it becomes important, and we make sure that that person has clicked that and that they have the rights for that video in the first place. So those are the 3 levels that we have when anybody puts any kind of video on right now. I think that would make sense as we go forward as well.
I have one more question.
Yeah, Les.
So what about non-video visual content? What about like blogs, or you want to catch other people, because people go to the web to be entertained. It's for social. This may be fall under the social umbrella. They also go for information, right? My son's knee hurts. Is it twisted or is it broken? Like, a mom of or even an adult, is it a stress fracture? That's content, right? So that could go to a lot of medical sites. It's like how how it gets tracked and gets routed to your site, right? That's what everybody wants, right? So you have to have, I assume you're going to have some kind of like non-visual, right, content, like like a sports med, kind of blog that would be, something that would overlap. Obviously, is that going to be a goal to try and get that kind of content going? I mean, it's related. It's not all. I mean, is it all videos, or do you want to get some like not original content, but like sports related content that it could be a link to an article, like something that someone else wrote, or it could be you could get someone who provides like a third party, or it could be someone that you have under your umbrella that's providing like original content, or sports related kind of either medical advice or whatever it is. The fate of the Big Ten basketball, football. There could be a lot of different things that you could go. I'm just wondering what you're doing besides like just video kind of.
The answer to that is hell yeah.
It's a big ambitious thing. There's so many moving parts. I'm thinking that that's the goal too, as well, right? To have like, sports related content that's not just a video of a game, right? I mean.
So if you go into UB Sports right now, you go into any one of the portals, you're looking at the basketball portal or whatever, you'll see on the left side of each screen, there's ambassador content, member content, curated content. And when you go to your own personal portal, there's a place where you can actually write in your own blog if you want on your own portal. So you can have your own blog going. And we hope that people do.
No one wants to read that. They want to read they want to punch in is my stress fracture a stress fracture? That you want to get, instead of going to WebMD, right? You want it to go to UB Sports. It's sport. That's your competition. So you got to figure out, if you get that, you get the eyeballs on that medical related, say, sports injury, topic, you're going to get them. They could route to you if you have that content. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's we already have a portal on there for training and for injury, health and wellness, and injuries and injury recovery. And that would be one of the places where you would find that. The athletic trainers are going to be integral to the site in the first place. So there will be someone who's an ambassador for personal training and for injuries and wellness and that kind of stuff. As well, the B phase and C phase are going to have connections, and we're going to be able to sell connections into UB Sports from individual doctors. And doctors can say, I'd like a membership in this as a provider, and they'll pay a certain amount per month to have access to people in their locales for that. So that's actually the very, very good part, but something that we can get more and more specific on and make more and more money on, specifically by building those things. But back to your larger question, you do have the opportunity to write blogs, to upload links to blogs, to vlogs as well. And I would like to also, as we're developing this, do more vlogs than we have actually planned right now. Because as it becomes more and more a video intensive site, which it is, we will have the ability, we want to have the ability to have more video capabilities as we go along.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, do you want to be like a video, like you don't want to be like a highlight kind of, you want to be more than that. You want to be a bigger community where it's like, injury and sports related content about, whatever, recruiting, not recruiting, but there's so many different facets. If you just, video kind of highlight, just less depth. I think that you see that. That's what you're going for, right?
Yeah, and if you're in that age range where you want to get recruited, there are tools on your profile management page that will allow you to actually develop a highlight page. And
no, not even recruited, but I'm saying, like, let's say I'm an adult man, I go cycling, I'm out of shape, I hurt my knee. I mean, everyone does this. Even if you're like my child was sick, and I'm like, Googling COVID-19, symptoms. You just punch it in because you're looking for information. And those eyeballs that are sports-related injuries or sports-related, maybe the psychological, sports psychology. There are so many things you could get that are not medical, but they're kind of lateral to the video of watching a game, right? And watching as a fan or being an athlete. There are so many things that are related. And it's a lot of content. You could, it's not visual, right? But it's other related content. That's a lot of stuff that you'd have to have someone manage and think about how to approach that. But you want that content because you want those eyeballs that when they're going to punch in for information on the internet, that you get those people.
Couldn't agree more. The reason why we're bringing in all those athletic trainers is to have the capabilities that they bring to the party. On the site itself, you mentioned sports psychology. Right now on the site, there are 2 nav lines. The first nav line has on it sports psychology, parenting, sports parenting, and
huge,
there should be the medical side of things. Obviously,
it cuts into medical, it cuts into psychology, it cuts into parenting. It's all, cause it's like a Venn diagram, and you want a piece of it because it rightfully belongs in the world of sports. But right now, it's going to like Parenting Magazine, it's going to WebMD, and it's really about sports, right? So it's kind of, you just kind of shift the Venn diagram over to you because it falls under that sports umbrella, all those questions looking for that content. Yeah.
Not only that, but we also have the capability of not co-opting, but presenting that information directly off of WebMD or other places like that, because the way we've built the site is using iframes. And an iframe basically is the same thing that if you go to Safari or Firefox or one of the browsers, you use that browser window and you Google something. What pops up is the website for whatever you just Googled. If you Google WebMD for a knee injury, WebMD pops up there in that browser window. We have the same capabilities using iframes to do exactly the same thing. So
yeah, I'd still caution you, Greg, on the concept of the iframes. We've discussed this before. There's other technologies that allow you to pull content in from sites like that, RSS feeds, different things like that. So I think we need to be cautious because the iframe technology isn't going to fit into the site once you start building it as a responsive site.
And then down to the phone. We'll have to find other technologies to use for that.
Yeah, so I think we have to be cautious about just that term. The entire concept is right, is being able to embed or pull in that content for you. But I don't know that iframes is really the right technology to do.
Certainly not as we move from the web to mobile. We'll have to work on other technologies. You're right. RSS is great. There are a couple other technologies now that are being used.
And I think the last thing, if somebody's looking up at an example Leslie used is, somebody sprained their shoulder and is looking for, what can I do or how do I rehab this back into shape or condition or something. The last thing you want is to pull in a website that has all of that website's advertising and everything else on it.
Yeah.
All of the chrome around the actual content. So that, anyway, I'm not saying it's good or bad or anything, but we just need to be cautious going forward as to how that stuff gets presented.
And liability too. Liability too. We start telling them how they can start doing rehabbing on that and they get hurt or worse.
Yeah.
we can be liable for that. So we have to make sure we set it up so that it goes to somebody who's definitely professional, can make sure that they can direct them in the right way and make sure they get trained the right way and healed properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, part of that is
But I like the idea, Leslie. It's good. They need to get involved in that whole. That's a huge section of the sporting world.
I mean, it's a fight. It's a fight for eyeballs, right? It's a fight for content. I was just reading an article about a guy that went to Penn. He runs Dot Dash, right? Which was about I guess he was involved with the about.com and Dot Dash, and he broke it up to like the way that he approaches it is like instead of having one big website and one domain and everything underneath that, the strategy is to have little different pieces and then owned by the same company. So he doesn't, you want to have a medical question or a home question or whatever your thing is, and then they own them all. But they want to get specific because when you try to punch in the internet, you're looking for something for content. It's a specific question, right? And so you want a specific answer. So the giant umbrella of catch-all maybe isn't the way to go. Like, I mean, that's what this is doing, but our window is very narrow. It's a sports kind of approach, but it can get really big really fast, and you'd have to figure out how to get that content where it belongs under sports. We want to align it under sports because it's a sports related issue, but it overlaps like a Venn diagram with medical, and so you just have to think about how to make the content and how to present the content.
Yeah, that stuff also, when I was doing a lot of thought about that over the past few years, and the concept is to drill down, and you can go by this part of the body that's hurt your shoulder, okay, and then your shoulder injuries, and then you can look under, you can drill down pretty quickly to things that talk about what happened to you. So that's something that's very, very possible. And yeah, we're going to be very careful with that as we go forward, because yes, we have to worry about liability. We have to worry about how we, who's recommending the stuff, what to do, where to go, that kind of, all that information can lead to liabilities that we don't want to have. We want to be able to pass that on as quickly as possible, the liabilities at least off of, our shoulders. That's not what we're there to do.
I mean, you could get someone that's just like you could you just get a relationship with a trainer or a sports med doctor to write an article X times a month, or it's not hard. It's not, there are so many injuries and the body is only so big, but you get people on board. You have to get those people under your umbrella to provide that content that are experts, whether it's trainers or sports medical doctors. Penn has a great sports medic. You got to get people that are experts in this field, and then if they are willing, they come on and they provide that content, right?
Totally agree. It's a wonderful thing to do. I think also,
Greg, I have a 1 o'clock engagement I have to get to.
God, I can't believe you spent 2 hours. Okay.
So I'm gonna jump off.
All right, John. We'll keep in touch. Also, tomorrow we have a 3 o'clock call, and I'll keep you in touch as how that goes along.
Yeah, let me know how to view that recording of it, because I won't be able to make that tomorrow.
All right, great. I will.
All right. Nice talking to you all. See you again soon.
John, thanks.
John. Hey, Greg, this is Tony. Quick question. It could relate to John as well, maybe for tomorrow's discussion. Seems like there's a lot of conversation around where the site is going, which is great. Is there a dev site developed already, or stage site developed already, or is that you waiting to sign on with somebody first?
No, go to UB Sports. If you just go to UB Sports, you'll find it.
There's a dev site. There's a dev site there.
Yeah, it's actually our third beta.
The third beta is there already. Okay, great.
Yeah, and that's the next step is to go real.
Got it. Perfect.
So Leslie, I totally, I think we're on to something very, very big there. We're talking. Everybody gets injured sometime in their lives. As I said, there's a place for UB Sports from the day you start to the day you hang up your shoes, and everything in between. So what we have to do is find a way to keep the traction as we go along. And obviously, number one is when we get hurt ourselves, but also as we're a sports parent, our kids are going to get hurt all the time. We have to know how to handle the strains and pains and all that kind of stuff, and mental as well as physical, which is why the sports psychology.
Or even like burnout. Like someone wants to know about sports burnout, they're going to Google sports burnout, and you want to get that, right. It has to be routed under the domain of sports, because there's a lot of overlap with medical or psychological, or you could say I don't know, team leadership. There's so many things that could come up, and you could get some content that brings them to your site. It can't be huge, but some things are relevant, whether it's an injury or team or coaching or whatever. It could be anything.
You know what's really interesting? There are very few coaching sites. How do you become a coach? What do you do as a coach? How do you incite people to higher levels? And how do you keep them involved for 5, 6, 7 days a week? How do you get them psyched up for peaking during the weekend when they're going to be playing in the match? All those important things. There really aren't very many coaching tools like that. So
Yeah, and Greg, the same can be said about referees, officials, and umpires.
Exactly.
There's not so many sites for them as well.
Exactly. So all those
Yeah, I
things.
mean, it's like a spider web. It can be so big. It's almost like, you have to think about, and it'll have to be in stages, right? Everything starts and then builds upon it. So you'd have to, it has to be about, how you manage it, how you control it, how you roll it out, what's the priority. And then, you could have people contributing by the dozens, right? And giving very high content that is relevant to the people on the site. It just depends how you approach it and how you want to do that.
Hey guys, I've got a 1 o'clock. This is extremely exciting. Nice to meet you all virtually. Hopefully you get a chance to meet in person really soon. Greg, love to talk to you about tomorrow as well.
Yeah, either call me later on today or tomorrow, and we'll chat.
Yeah, I'm the same thing. I got a meeting.
Yeah, I
at
think
1
I
o'clock.
should just say that this is
Okay.
it's been fun. All right, so let's think about doing this like maybe next week or whenever you guys want to get together again. Maybe we'll
Okay.
have an open call on Mondays at 11 o'clock, and whoever shows up, and
Okay.
we'll stay in touch in the meantime.
Okay.
That works.
Perfect.
All
Thanks.
right.
All right.
All right. Take care,
Thanks,
guys.
guys. Nice
Bye.
meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.